Hello, all CMS followers. We are in a very special place today, a place every football supporter knows. We are at UEFA in Lyon, and the CMS communication group has been welcomed by two special people who are here with me. And I ask you first to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Storaci. I come from Italy, in Milano. I was born in Milano. And my past background is in research. I studied particle physics in Milano Bicocca. And my childhood dream, since I was 12 years old, was to become a particle physicist. And I actually achieved this dream by working 12 years at CERN, all of them in the LSCB experiment. And then I decided to move my career path to something completely different. But as I always say, I just moved to bigger particles, to football balls. And I'm now here since 7 years at UEFA.
So, Barbara, you're working here, but you didn't leave completely CERN because you still work with people who worked at CERN.
Yeah. When I arrived, I was one of the first. In the most recent years, there's many more people who are joining UEFA that are coming from a scientific background, and many of them are also coming from CERN. And one example is even coming from CMS. So maybe I will take the opportunity to introduce the other special guest that you have today, that is Sarah, and is working with me in my unit.
As Barbara said, I was also at CERN. I was working on the CMS experiment when I was at CERN. Say the last thing I did was working on the tracker upgrade project for the high luminosity LHC. So, but before that, I was involved in the electronics group at CERN for my PhD, where I did my PhD on radiation hard electronics for the upgrades. And before that, I was working on one of the anti-hydrogen experiments at CERN.
So the two of you have a very interesting career, first at CERN, and I guess there you learn to have your responsibilities. Which were your main responsibilities when you were at CERN?
So, yeah, I obviously grew up at CERN because I arrived there during my first year, during summer, and then I never come back. And I think the last most important role that I covered was the operation coordinator of the LSCB experiment. I was quite young for such an important role and set of responsibility, but that has been really my life changer opportunity. And I also had the incredible fortune as a physicist of this era, to have seen all the parts of an experiment. So I was lucky enough to work before the detector were active. Then I did the commissioning, and I did also the running of the experiment. So I had really the opportunity to see almost all the lifespan of the experiment, excluding the dismantling that I'm very happy to not have seen it. And there also, I'm a person who really I'm curious. I like to discover as many things as possible to get as much knowledge as I can. I get bothered very quickly when I start to learn too much of the subject. So I really loved the fact that I had the opportunity to work both in the lab, working on the detector, but I also had the opportunity to write a tracking reconstruction for the trigger, doing physics analysis of important decay channels. And finally, I have these coordination roles that was particularly important and give me most of the things that then I have also reused here at UEFA.
Sarah, you said you were in the upgrade. What was the most interesting aspect of working for the future of the experiment?
The scale of the upgrade is pretty spectacular, right? It's, I think, 400 square meters of silicon. It's tens of thousands of modules. All the complexity of it's not just the modules, it's the modules and the mechanics and the infrastructure and the data acquisition system and the online software and the offline software and the integration of that with the trigger. the CMS tracker upgrade is the first time that a tracker contributes to the level 1 trigger, which is not a simple thing to do. So to see how the project started from the idea of like, well, okay, what do we have to do to make the data available to the trigger in a format which makes sense? What decisions do we have to make about the modules? What decisions do we have to make about the readout systems? What decisions do we have to make about the cooling, about the mechanics? It's just kind of the complexity. So I found most interesting was the complexity of a project and just how many aspects do you have to touch when you're involved in a project, which is in and of itself, it has to achieve something, but also has to integrate quite closely with others. So I think that was the most interesting.
So we go now to the present, and we talk about your role at UEFA. How long have you been here now?
It's already 7 years. Looks so yesterday, but a long time has passed. Now I'm a senior manager at UEFA, and I'm in charge of several projects. So since I joined, one of the first projects I've been involved in is the bidding process. So the process to assign who will host our final tournaments or finals, like the Champions League finals or the final of the European Championship. And is the coordination of this entire process from the building of the documents that are needed for the National Association interested in give their candidature for hosting such a tournament or final, up to the evaluation of it and then the final report that will be provided to the executive committee for the evaluation and the appointment, so for the decision making at the end. And now the biggest project I'm involved on top of all the others is the draw. So I'm responsible of the coordination and the realization of all the draws at UEFA, and there are really a lot of them, of which the most important now is the digital draw that has been introduced for the first time, I think, in all sport industries, the first time that we have a digital draw. And it was done for the first time last year, given the new format of our men's club competition. So this has been a long process to arrive there, and is a good example where my background and my scientific background, my analytical skills, the data analysis, the statistic knowledge, and the code experience and technical expertise has been a key asset to cover such a role. And I'm also working on this project with Sarah, so it's something we share in our experience here at UEFA. So first of all, the draw is, as you all probably know, is how we decide who will play against who.
This is what all we are waiting to know, which is
exactly
the next match.
So we have these events, some of them hosted here at UEFA in this building, and others done abroad. And the digital draw that we are talking about is normally done in Monaco. So until last year, all draws were physical in the sense that there are draw balls. Someone draw randomly one ball, opens and tells you who is the first team and then the opponents. Now, with the new format, we need let's talk as an example, the Champions League. We need for each team, we need to find who will be the 8 opponents they will play against. Given the fact that we have 36 teams, there's quite a lot to be drawn. So since it's a good event, but we still need to do it in a reasonable amount of time, we have a part that is done with draw balls. So you select through randomly selecting a ball who is the team, and then the opponents are drawn randomly by the software. So that is the digital part. So you have this good combination of the events on stage with the selection of which team is coming, and then the opponents that are done through a software. But you can imagine that one of the key elements here is to ensure that the draw is random and correct. So this part has been really at the heart of what we have done in the last years, and all the studies that we have done from a statistical perspective, from a computer perspective, to ensure that the results obtained were completely correct, following the rules, and the entire process was fully random.
So, Sarah, what are the skills that you learned and you acquired working at CMS that you are using now in your current work in this project?
Yeah, almost everything I have learned is working on CMS, working on a particle physics experiments, translates to day-to-day work here. I think from the mundane to knowing as part of a draw how to figure out which cable is connected to which end. Yeah, like that sounds to people working in the lab at CERN, this sounds like, okay, I've done this like about 100 times, but literally I have done this here, understood which cable goes where. And knowing how to do that if you know how to do it for 100 cables, you probably do it for 3 and explain to someone how to do it for 3. I think also knowing how to explain things to others in a way which is, sometimes I don't manage to do it, but in a way which they are able to understand and follow and clearly and say, you have to do this and then do that and then do the next step. That is something which you kind of take for granted working in science, that when you do something, the next step is you explain it, you clarify, you document, you share. All those things that you just instinctively do when you work in a collaboration, when you work in science. I think we do it here every day as well.
So, I guess that after you work at CERN, you had a lot of possibilities to go to work in different environments. Why did you choose UEFA?
Okay, I have a specific rule in life. I think one of the key things is, if you want to be happy, you need to know what you really like. Physics and particle physics, because I was pretty clear when I was 12 years old, young, I wanted really to work at CERN. It was not just, CERN. My second passion was sport. I always loved sport, all of them. Football was the top one, but I was ready and happy to do any type of sport as long as I could move. So when I arrived to this moment in life in which I decided, okay, maybe it's time for me for a change, then I said, okay, what is my next passion in life? And I say, it's clearly sport. So I actively look for a job in a sport environment. I share the spirit and the values behind sport. This is very important to me. And the other things, I was really looking for an international place, and a place where I can come to work every day and feeling fine with my colleagues, helping each other. I really need an environment like in science, where we are all here to work in a team, to collaborate.
Was it the same for you, Sarah? Are you a sport fan?
I like to run, so I'm a runner. But I think for me, it was kind of what you said about the collaborative and the team spirit. So I think I'm not quite like Barbara. I never had the dream to be a specific kind of thing or job. I think what drives me is I like to solve problems, and I like to help. So help and solve problems and solve interesting problems. And so I was pretty open on where I would go, and I was introduced. So someone told me about an opportunity at UEFA, and I spoke to the team here, and I spoke to Barbara, and I think I was very lucky on the tracker upgrade that it was really a wonderful collaboration. And it really felt like everyone working towards the same goal. It felt like every day you went to work and you were part of a team. And that's exactly the same feeling I got when I spoke to the people at UEFA, and it's completely matches 100% with my experience here. So being part of a team, working towards a bigger goal, I think that was important to me, and I was lucky to find it here.
So we spoke about the advantage of having worked at CERN. What were the challenges you had to face moving from the world of research to the world of sport?
I was used to talk with other people with a very similar background as me. So typically when we were discussing about a problem or a solution or how to do something, we were all coming with a very structured approach, quite logical way of thinking, maybe easy mathematical understanding. So it was relatively easy, and sometimes you don't realize it, but you maybe jump some steps, but people will still follow you. And then here I realized that people have orthogonal skills. They are great people, extremely clever, but just think differently. So sometimes you just have to say, okay, this way of explaining the things is just not going to work. It would be the more natural for me to understand, but it's not the more natural for them. And you need to find alternative ways to explain the same things, maybe with example, more practical example. But now, if you ask me, that is one of the things that I love most of my job here, and one of the things that I think made me grow the most here. So I could really open my horizon, see and learn from people coming from completely different background, and being exposed at things that before I have never thought about.
So Sarah, continuing on the subject, how does the work culture at UEFA compare to that you had at CMS?
It's very similar. I don't think it's very different. It's the same idea that you have something you work to, you get there together, you help the person next to you. If you think about what it is that the other person is doing, and you go say, oh, but wait, like the sharing, the collaboration, that's also very similar. So obviously it's different. It's football. It's not building a particle physics detector, but it's also things like, not for the upgrade, but for like day-to-day activities on CMS, there's a run. You have a schedule. You know that this time of year, this will happen. This will happen every year in the same way. The rhythm, the fact that the year has a rhythm, you have run, you have downtime, you have upgrades, you have installations, that kind of rhythm to the year, that's also here. So a lot of things were very similar, actually.
So, Barbara, do you think that this diversity of experiences enriches UEFA?
Definitely. And that's why I was very happy to have Sarah joining our group, because I really think that is in this combination of different profiles, different skills, that we can reach the best for UEFA.
Do you see the role of science and technology in a sector like sports?
It's clear that this is becoming more and more important, and it really goes from the development of the sport itself. So we have seen it inside the football with the VAR technology, as much as all this tracking technology, also the amount of data that are used from the youth to the professional players to track their performance, try to reduce the injuries. But it also applies to other sports, so even athletics and practically, I think, every sports, even a small one like Taekwondo, is getting towards technologies and some data-driven thing. And in parallel, you see that also in terms of how you have to develop your daily job, we requires to have application softwares to make your work more efficient. And therefore, I think that technology is just everywhere.
So, well, thank you very much for being with us, and especially for showing everyone that scientific method and technology skills can help in any work. Just last thing for the two of you, do you have suggestion for young people who started working or studying physics for the future, to learn how to expand, to broaden their knowledge like you did?
I think maybe just to say, don't be afraid of change and of trying something which maybe doesn't directly map on paper to what you think your skills are, because your skills are more abstract, and more generally applicable than you think. I think that's it, because what you've been trained to do as a physicist is how to think critically and how to make use of certain tools. And the ability to learn a new tool is a learned skill, but the ability to think critically takes a lot longer. Like, you've spent at least 20, 25 years of your life usually learning the skills of how do I think critically? What tools I use to achieve my day-to-day work, those change, and those have changed drastically from 10 years ago, 5 years ago today, and those will continue to change. So, but you as a person, your basic skills, that's what you've gotten out of physics for me. And if you've done that and you accept that, okay, if on paper it doesn't look like it's a one-to-one map, but maybe I can find something, a glimmer of, yes, this attracts me, try. So don't be afraid of a change. There's probably more out there than you think.
I totally agree with that. And on top, I think really think of what matters for you. And don't try to go on the standard path just because they are the easy one, but try to be happy. Try to understand what is important for you and try to follow this path. And the other important thing is don't get into the trap that leaving physics is a failure, because it's not. You can be happy outside physics. First message that is very important. I'm happy. I think you are happy. And the second element is you can be more than just a physicist. You will be all your life a physicist. If you have become a physicist, this will remain inside you. It's for life. It's good that people stay in physics for life, but it's also good things to change. And there's really, your skills are so general that they can be applied. What they look for is the skills you have developed, as we have discussed today. And this is what you have to sell, because this is what will be your key value for the new company.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for welcoming us here at UEFA.